All right, I'm very happy to welcome on Justin Andrews of Mind Pump. It's kind enough to give us some time today. He's a very busy man out there doing Mind Pump things. I mean, all four of you guys are very busy lately. I know that. So what have you guys been
Yep.
up to?
Oh, everything. I mean, we just actually finished. I just told you about writing our new program up
Yep.
here. This is what we do a lot of times is we try to kind of go somewhere where we all kind of get our creative juices flowing, get
Yep.
away from the family a little bit, and that way we're able to kind of buckle down and get creative and figure this out. So we're excited with this new one that we just crafted.
Awesome. So I wanted to have you on because I found your podcast probably, I would say we'll say like 6 to 8 months ago, somewhere around there, probably in the summertime. And, I've been lifting for probably like 10 years, if I had to guess. And when you live for that amount of time, you think you have all the answers, right? You think, oh, all I
Mhm.
got to do is I got to go. I got to just do my exercise, get out of there. And if I see a little bit of gains, I know what I'm doing. I don't need anyone to tell me. So you guys completely changed my perspective on that. I think you've changed at this point millions of people's perspectives on that, which is crazy to say. I
That's
want you to
crazy.
I want you to just tell me like the story of Mind Pump, the evolution into what it's become today. I know you've probably had to tell the story a million times, so you don't need to get too far into it, but I still am interested in just how it came to be.
That's okay. I mean, honestly, the story changes all the time, so it's kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
cool
sure.
to revisit it a little bit.
Yeah.
We were actually up here. We were going through a little bit of nostalgia, looking at pictures and kind of going through the timeline of, how we got to where we were and these milestones that we hit. So, honestly, it all started because we were all kind of guided into different um, fitness businesses and parts of the industry that we all were passionate about. And we all have different backgrounds, by the way, which actually I think it creates a lot of the flavor of what we kind of figured out on the show.
For sure.
Um, so we all kind of did our own thing forever. And then I just randomly connected with Adam. He's another one of the hosts. And I used to work for him. And so he was my manager when I was at 24 Hour Fitness. So 24 Hour Fitness is kind of like what we all hold that together. So we all
Yeah.
went through that same kind of a company and all had that in common. And we're sort of the top producers there. And so we've kind of loosely heard of each other anyways from the beginning by just reading this DPR where every time we're real competitive with who's the best and who's
Oh
who's
yeah.
crushing it out there, right? So Sal was one of those guys that we had heard of and then never met him though in person. And I started working with Adam and kind of pulled him out of the marijuana industry to come back to fitness. And we were working on things and connected with Sal because somebody had just patched us together. And so we met with him and what he was doing with his MAPS anabolic program, we really liked. And he got into that and kind of presented it to us. And anyway, we just got to talking and we were like, man, we have way too much in common. And there's just the common thread is that everybody's confused out there.
Right.
All of our clients come in and it's like we have to sort of unpack all the bad information that they were receiving out there one at a time. And it was just frustrating because it's like we never get somebody coming in excited with a good foundation to kind of work
Right.
with. We have to, sort of backtrack through everything. And so these became longer conversations, and we were both kind of simultaneously working on two different businesses. Sal was doing his thing with Doug, which Doug was his client, and they were working together on trying to create this online program. And we were working on our version, which was like going to be on an app format. And so Adam and I were working on that, and then we just kind of, melded everything together at a certain point. But um, we we just found that there was just way too many conversations that would keep going and going, and that the best platform for this was podcasting, and it was super new at the time. I mean, it was probably like the second wave.
Right.
Which, if you try to podcast starting now, it's like
Yeah.
really difficult,
It's
right?
tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually got somewhat the timing was lucky because it was sort of on that sort of second wave where we were able to get a lot of attention, because we were saying things that nobody else were at the time.
Right.
And we got on What's Hot, and then from there we just started to kind of pick up steam and have this sort of cult-like following, that we thought was just in our local area, but all of a sudden now, like, it was kind of spreading around the world, and we were getting messages. And so it just started to kind of just build in real slowly, like a snowball effect. So it wasn't like an overnight thing by any means. I mean, we were grinding, and we thought we were the best right from the beginning, which is, totally,
That's good. That's a good thing. Yeah.
bunch of cocky assholes, but we just felt like there was so much we needed to teach people,
Right.
and try to have fun at the same time. So I think that's like been the whole formula of what we've been trying to accomplish, is just to give as much information sort of spoon fed with some sugar in there. So it's not so dry and boring, and it's definitely science based, but it's not like you're sitting through a lecture.
Right.
So
it sounds like everything has gone pretty smoothly for you guys, but has there been anything behind the scenes that's like, we had this hiccup and that kind of almost tore this whole thing apart, or were there any blowups, anything like any roadblocks along the way? Because I believe me, I've started podcasts other than this one before, and then things just didn't work out because you and a co-host can't get along, or you're not on the same page time wise, something like that. Has there ever been anything like that?
I mean, we have had knockdown fights. I mean, there's four of us, right? And we're
Right.
all very opinionated, and like, I hate to use the word alpha, but like we all like have like a pretty firm idea of how we want things to go. Like I have a very
Right.
clear vision of what I want to bring in. Sal has a very clear vision of where he wants to go. Adam, Doug. So we all have this kind of push-pull relationship, but the unique part of it all is that we view it as a team, and we just want the right answer to emerge. So we want to win, and so whoever actually wins out in terms of their idea, we're going to all just now jump ship and buy into that idea. So that's been an incredibly unique aspect that we all share. And I think that's why we've stayed together so long, is because we have this like really deep mutual respect for each other. But to be honest, I mean, it's been rocky at times. And to answer your question, we actually initially started with 4 hosts. And that was one time where we didn't even get off the ground launched yet. We did like 10, 12 episodes we pre-recorded, and we were going to launch. And at the time, our friend Craig, he was sponsored by all these big companies, and they told him that our content was a little too dicey, too rocky. And so they did, he just got, he got afraid of the backlash and to lose his sponsorships. And so he decided to drop out.
Damn.
And it is what it is, but that actually really just pulled us in even tighter as a group. And so that was one thing where we realized, oh wow, like, no, we're gonna just press way past a lot of these challenges that come our way, because that's just how we all are wired. And so we've had a couple other sort of hiccups and things where but nothing like so devastating where somebody wants to leave or start their own thing, or it hasn't got to that point. So thankfully, we talk it out. It might be heated, but we talk it out. So that's definitely there's conflict, but it ends up in resolve most of the time.
Well, I was definitely going to mention the fact that you guys are not afraid to go against the grain. I mean, you guys will push against all the mainstream narratives, not even just fitness. I mean, non-fitness news that comes up, whether it's COVID or really anything else. I mean, you guys aren't afraid to kind of needle people, and that might rub people the wrong way, but you guys are authentic. And I think that's a big part of what blew you guys up, really, because so many people are trying so hard to be something that they're not. And you guys aren't.
Yeah.
How much pushback has there been since you guys became very popular and you're willing to push that narrative? Because we're seeing what's going on with like Joe Rogan and all these popular podcasters right now. I mean, The people are really just trying to cancel anyone who tries to speak against the narrative. So what's kind of your opinion on that?
You know, it, it hasn't been fun.
Right.
I'll just say that right now. And in the beginning, there's been moments where we all just kind of collectively meet and discuss like how we're going to handle things in terms of what we're going to present, and if we really are going to touch some of these politically volatile subjects. And we know that we get bad reviews from people if we even have opinions about anything. So it's one of those things that we've just evolved over time to where we understand how each other thinks, to the point where I trust what Adam's going to say. I trust what Sal's going to say. I trust myself to present our opinion or just certain facts that we've read that are out there, that we feel people haven't been exposed to yet, because a lot of times like we just get in this bubble where we're just getting fed all the same news. We're watching all the same TV channels. We're going to places like the hospital, schools, and everybody's has a sort of a heightened fear around a lot of what's going on. And so it sort of pushes people in a certain direction to just focus on certain content. And so I struggle with it because my wife was a nurse, and she retired actually before all this kind of went down. And
Good timing on there.
I know. I tell that every day. I'm like, oh, we're so fortunate that we got you out of there. But even amongst my own family, this has been, and this is why this has been so hard, is because I just want to pay attention to facts. I want to pay attention to where I can find, these studies that are unbiased, and that's really hard to do. Right. So I try to do now is empathize more with people, because I understand I don't have the same kind of intensity that we do, because we actually have to present this stuff to people, right? And so they probably haven't done the legwork to look at all of these points of data, and look through and really like take your time to analyze and critically think your way through a lot of these without any kind of fear and emotion driving it. So so it's important though, because like you said, there's not a lot of people that will go against the grain anymore, and that scares me, because it's it's one of those things that if we don't talk about it, then that's one less voice, and there's one less sort of wall of resistance of like, hey, wait, let's slow down. Like, that's all I'm asking. Like, slow down, and don't force things on people, on me, on like, let's really critically think our way through this. And so that's been our energy towards all these subject matters, and really it's frustrating because some people don't realize how passionate we are about helping people.
Right.
And it really, that's the mission of our entire company. That's the mission of our podcast, is to provide people with tools that they can live a successful, healthy, vibrant life.
Yeah.
And that's really the motivation. That's it. There's no like Republican, Democratic, Libertarian. There's no agenda other than I want my family to thrive, be healthy, be safe. I want your family to do the same. I understand there's disagreements with what you've heard or read, but let's talk about it. That's what I'm asking. Let's just talk about it, discuss it all the way through, and we will all come to the conclusion that's closer to truth.
Yep.
Otherwise, we're not. We're just like, it reminds me of when, I don't know, like some parents, like thankfully my parents weren't really like this, but you ask them a question and just do it because I said so. And like, that doesn't work. I'm not a child. So that's my little rant about that. But yeah, we're not afraid, man. That's just the thing. Like, the beauty of it is we're not bound to sponsors. A lot of our sponsors appreciate us for, our voice and for how we use it, because they know it's coming from a good place. They're not going to like put their stamp on everything we say,
Right.
which is totally cool. But again, we're not bound to that, to where we filter ourselves. And so that's unique. Not a lot of people have a
Absolutely.
job where they're not dependent on that money, where they put those standards where, like, you have to do this or you get fired. Like, we just don't have that circumstance. And I feel for people that do. So it's so important now. And unfortunately, I feel compelled more so than before. And I feel like we're finding our voice too. So
Definitely.
through all this stress and hardship everybody's gone through, I think we've really started to understand what's going on, and we try our best to only drip it in, so we don't overwhelm people, because I know they just want to go back to normal work.
Right.
Like, let's all just chill out, and like, so that's where I want to go too. But yeah, it's like 90% fitness though. So don't get me wrong. Like,
For sure.
yeah.
And as for the fitness stuff, that's a good segue, because you don't just push against mainstream stuff in the news. You push against mainstream stuff in the media that's fitness related. What mainstream narratives do you think that you guys have pushed against, that you had the most pushback for? And then how would you explain, like, why you're pushing back against them?
In terms of fitness or the mainstream media?
In terms of fitness. So, like, for example, cardio, you guys are big on, like, you don't need to do
Yeah.
cardio 5 days a week to lose weight. And that's something that when I'm in conversations with people, they're like, what do you mean cardio? That's how you lose weight. But you guys are big on resistance training. So that would be an example.
Right. Yeah, that's a great example. Which is, that was probably where my head would go first, between that and fasting. Let's
Right.
cover those two, right? So cardio is everybody's sacred cow for burning fat. And this is just something that we had to talk a lot of clients through this process, because of all of the videos, all of like what they the class setting. So everything that a lot of our clients kind of went through in terms of trying to lose body fat revolved around cardiovascular training, aerobics, and like group training. And so we've tried our best to present other options. Like, so our whole thing is you want to make sure that what your goal is, like, if I'm trying to get towards a goal, I want to get there in the most effective, efficient way possible. And I want to do it in a smart, calculated way. And there's actual science around this stuff. Which is frustrating, because fitness and health is something that, if most people can think of fitness and health and they think, I just can go run, or I can just stop eating so much and then
Right.
I'm good. Right. And it's like, yes. Also, there's probably a way better way to do that. If you want to keep muscle, if you want to look a certain way, like actually lose body fat, not lose muscle, and not have your metabolism totally go down super low, and limit the amount of calories you can even eat. And it's sort of this rough experience that we see a lot of people go through, where they get to that point where they've lost weight, but now they're not as strong. They've lost muscle, their
Right.
metabolism has gone way down, and any bit of food that they introduce, they're going to just jump right back up. And so there's just a more effective way to do this, instead of like crash dieting, instead of trying to, starve yourself, instead of just trying to run it all off. And muscle is just so protective. Muscle is actually, if you want to talk about, like, even for longevity goals, muscle they're finding has so much more value to people, to protect the joints, to keep you able-bodied, to keep your metabolism at a nice high point. So but it takes a longer period of time, it takes work, it takes discipline. And it's a message that's not sexy.
Right.
Because if you're looking at the scale, it's rewarding because it's like, wow, the scale's going down. Look,
Yeah.
I'm doing so great. I'm sweating. I'm doing so great. There's all this feedback you're getting from these other methods. And we have to actually have hard conversations with clients that we want to maintain your weight, or maybe even gain a little bit of weight before we really even focus on starting to cut down. And why? Because we're building your body first. We got to build that body. We got to build the metabolism up, so you get to a point where you can eat almost too much food. Like you're going through the day and you're like, wow, I'm eating a lot of food. Is it time yet? Like I want my client to get to that point. And then we can start kind of, shaving down, really focusing on that and keeping the muscle and preserving the muscle by weight training and really like dialing in, the nutrition. So yeah, it's a completely different approach that we've had more cardio people get upset with us.
Oh, I
Mainly
bet.
people that, because it's like taking away somebody's, I don't know, like if they're really, really,
Their
for me, it would be
hobby.
coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like I
Like
love coffee that
runners,
much. Yeah.
I'm sure runners get upset because like anyone like that, where it's like literally their life. They're like, what do you mean it doesn't help? But
Yeah. Yeah. And they think we're like haters, and we're like,
yeah,
no, no, no. We're not saying like don't do cardiovascular exercise. We're just, if you're pursuing fat loss, it's not the best strategy.
yeah,
And that's just fact. So that's a big one. The other one that I didn't mention within that umbrella
yeah.
is the group X, the group training,
All right. Yep.
the Orange Theory, and so we've gotten backlash a lot from that because of coaches and people that own Orange Theories and people that go to Orange Theories or CrossFit's another big one that's kind of wrapped into. We pissed off a lot of CrossFit people. It's really the cardio and the high intensity. I think people have given us the biggest pushback
Right.
because it's almost like a martyr thing. And it's like, well, I am doing all the work
Yeah.
and I don't want to hear that there's other ways to do it. And
That's people's biggest
yeah,
roadblock for sure. That's their biggest roadblock in fitness is thinking like, and I mentioned this earlier, you think you have all the answers if you've been doing something a while. That's for sure. I think people's biggest problem in fitness. You probably agree because you guys tell all those different myths and stuff. But one other thing that I wanted to mention when it comes to that is this is actually personal story, quick one. I actually gave my mom your podcast. I just showed an episode. I forget which one it was. It might have been, I think it might have been the basics of resistance training or something. I don't know.
oh, okay, good. One of the more
I'm not totally sure
less
which one
crazy
it
ones.
was. Whichever one it was it completely changed her view. She's a 51-year-old who wanted to lose weight.
Oh wow.
She's, you know what I mean? She's borderline diabetic, all this stuff. And she was like, I never pictured her. Sorry, mom, for saying this. I never pictured her stepping into a gym and getting a personal trainer. That episode got her into a gym, personal training, resistance training. And before this, she was very just like, well, I don't feel like going 5 days a week. I don't feel like doing an hour. I don't have time. I don't have all of these excuses. And I think that applies to just so many people out there with that same attitude. And that way, all you got to do is step in 3 days, 3 days a week for a half hour. I think that's another thing that people fail to grasp.
Wow, that's awesome, man. I'm stoked your mom got into that.
I'm still stunned, but she calls me after every single workout. She's gonna listen to this and be like, "Why are you talking about me?" But like she calls me after every workout, being like this, that it was awesome. So kudos to you guys for being able to change people's mindsets like that. So one other thing is I find myself in this conversation with women all the time who are like, I don't want to bulk up. Like, why would I lift weights? I'm not trying to bulk up. That's another one of these myths out there that if I lift heavy, I'm going to get all bulky and I'm going to look like a man, basically. Just give me your argument against that, because every time I try to argue it, I sound like an idiot. So coming from someone like you, I think it has a ton of value.
Yeah, that's a common one. I think that was our third episode or something that we cover, was like women's fitness myths, because
that might have been the one I showed. I'm pretty sure that
Okay.
was it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's still super pervasive. Like it's a common thought. I actually had to talk my wife out of that mentality, even as well. She was really into cardio kickboxing and never wanted to lift super heavy because for some reason, um, within a few weeks, she was going to probably, get super yoked like Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Right.
like overnight. Yeah, it's so silly and unfortunate because, like I said before, how impactful and how beneficial muscle tissue is in building that within your frame and your structure, and how it balances your hormones. It has just so many different benefits to it that translate, far beyond just looking aesthetically, more attractive. And
Right.
for the it's tough because I know Sal uses the example a lot. With he used to pull in one of his trainers who was, like 110 pounds or something, right? And no, it wasn't 110 pounds. What am I talking about? She looked like she was about 110 pounds. Thank you.
Right.
And so he would mention this to a lady that had that sort of idea of like, you know, I don't want to lift weights though. I want to just kind of do cardio, maybe do some circuits and
High
like,
reps.
well, yeah, high
Yeah.
reps. Let's keep the toning, the focus, right? And so the fact is, like, either you're building or you're not with muscles. And so you can build and tone muscles while adjusting your nutrition, and you're going to be just fine in terms of like your desired outcome and look. And so back to the story of the lady.
Yeah.
So she was actually like a good 20 pounds heavier than this person thought, that was sitting at the desk and was like just baffled by that. And it's because her body composition was primarily like lean muscle mass,
Right.
and she was more energetic, stronger, and literally had the physique that this lady wanted, sitting there, thinking that she needed to cut down and just focus on basically running all these calories off, and not building muscle tissue. So I think that if more women can get exposed to that, and understand that feeling stronger makes you feel more empowered too, builds that self confidence up, and it just makes you look better. It helps your skin. It makes you more vibrant. There's just so many benefits in that direction versus the gaunt eyes, the loss of hair. Like the further down you go and dropping the calories, it's a spiral that just keeps going.
Right.
And you just hit that bottom to where um, you're in real trouble and have to rebuild from scratch. So I think that in terms of bulking, um, good. Like I think more women should bulk.
And
And I
that's such a
actually,
it's such a tough word to use too, because when you say bulk, it's they're immediately out. Bulk, I don't want to
yeah,
bulk. Like, so it's almost like there should be a different term for specifically for women so that it can
yeah.
convince them.
I was trying to think of one. Like, so we did an episode. I'll have to shoot that over to you later, or whatever. But we did one where I was like, we need to talk about this. That
Yeah.
I think more women should figure out how to bulk. I don't know if many women, as they train, have considered even eating, in a surplus. And for the most part, it's always like the combination of like, well, I hit the gym, so the calories start shaving down low. And I had so many clients that were just always constantly in the deficit.
Right.
And that does so much damage to your hormones.
Yeah.
And it does the opposite of what you are seeking. And so your body starts kind of working against you with that type of a plan. So I think it's just it's one of those. It's a really tough conversation to have with women because there's that immediate sort of satisfaction of sweating and sort of losing weight on the scale, but I would just wish we could shift that over to wanting to look better and feel like feel better in clothes, like, and have areas of your body shrink and
Yeah.
that be the focus and have, more definition. And so, eating in a surplus helps you build the muscle to promote that desired physique. And also like helps to kind of bring everything back to balance. So you feel really good and you're healthy. The point of all this is for you to actually find out how to make your body more healthy and then build upon it.
Exactly.
So if you're doing the opposite, you're not being healthy. You're just starving yourself and you're just going down that, spiral. So I guess that's as good of an attempt as I can get.
That's a great one. That's better than I've ever explained it. That's for sure. And I think on the other side, you have men who, they'll do these strength building programs. They're focused around hypertrophy, like that type of program, almost like a MAPS anabolic, which I'm actually running. I'm finishing it up now. So this is kind of a selfish question here. I'm going to MAPS Performance, which is pretty much completely different. And it's something I've never done. And I think it's something many people have not even opened their mind to. Like they're stuck in this mode where it's just, I got to build. I got to do these hypertrophy programs like anabolic or similar to it. What's the benefit? And I already know because I listen to you guys all the time, but I want you to just explain the benefit of performance or performance-based programs as opposed to a strength building hypertrophy program.
Yeah. So that's sort of the other side of the spectrum, right? And it's been a passion of mine specifically because this is, again, where we're a little different with our backgrounds. Mine has more of a performance driven sports, athleticism kind of focused type of a client, or even on myself, right? In terms of how I train. So for me, I was always open to training for hypertrophy and would do bodybuilder style workouts. And, my other friends kind of did those. So I would do workouts with them sometimes, and kind of vice versa. I'd expose them to more functional type of movements and exercises and things where it's not so stationary and you're not just always in the same plane of motion. So everything isn't just in front of you or behind you. You actually can move side to side. You can rotate and twist. And there's ways to do that where you get stronger in those types of movements as well. So there's a lot of benefit to that as well. So I would say my biggest contributions to the show have been mobility and performance driven workouts. And I especially wanted to make it, again, back to the whole feed you a little bit of sugar. I wanted to make it more appealing for a bodybuilder or the person that's always trying to just build muscle. I don't give a shit about doing these weird fancy moves or
that's me. That was me for a long time. I'm honestly, it's nerve-wracking going into it, but I'm excited about it. But yeah, that sums up the attitude that myself and a lot of people have.
Yeah, and you're not alone. I've had to actually talk a few people into it because it's unfamiliar territory, right?
Exactly.
And nobody likes to be a beginner right when they're really getting the hang of it. Again, and so that's a real challenge. But think of it like this: that's where all the growth now is. So you've been growing in one direction, and inevitably there's a cap to that,
right?
In terms of like now it might start to kind of reverse on you. So this is another way to stimulate the body completely differently, and there's more ranges of motion that get exposure that you can strengthen, and you can build muscle actually within that frame, that you can actually complete and support a lot of the main, mover muscles that you've been trying to work on so hard, doing these compound lifts. But now you have an even stronger support system. So I look at it as from a performance perspective, I'm increasing output. So I'm increasing your battery. So your battery capacity for a charge. So if I'm going to go to the same lift, let's say it's like a backloaded squat, and it's, I can lift a decent amount of weight.
Yeah.
But if I can generate more force when I need it, say at the bottom of that squat, watch the weight start moving, and how you can start stacking more plates,
Right.
beyond what you're capable of before. And the only way to do that is for your joints to provide feedback that everything is safe and stable. Your body has natural limiters for a reason, so you don't get injured. And so what we're doing with our performance driven workouts, we're strengthening, supporting these joints in different planes of motion, to then, if anything starts to shift on you, your body will react in a strong way to where your supporting cast is now, holding everything together. So your body doesn't freak out and now you lose a bunch of performance.
Right.
So it's really just plugging a bunch of holes in the training you previously were doing, but it's an ego check. So, you're going to be doing things in there like lunge matrix, which everybody hates me for that one.
I was just talking to my friend who's running performance right now, and I was like, dude, how are the matrix lunges? Because that's the one thing I'm looking at in the program. I'm like this is going to be brutal. But his question was like, dude, the side mobility, first of all, is obvious. That's the toughest part. But he's like, when he's turning around in the matrix lunge, so what's an example of what someone might watch that and be like, what's the point of doing that?
Yeah, that's the way. Like, you're now placing your body in rotation, under control, and you're familiarizing that movement pattern. And so you're going to strengthen that because think of it like real life. Is everything just a barbell that's nice, perfectly balanced?
No.
Right? Are you always feet together about hip to shoulder width? Nope. It's like we don't walk around like robots and,
right. That's a good way to put it.
Lifting with 90 degrees. And there's so many dynamic moments throughout your day that you don't even realize you're doing. And you're reaching back for something really quick.
Yeah, like the other day, I can shoulder press a decent amount, but like I was taking something out of the attic the other day, trying to hold it over my head. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, did I not gain any strength? So that's a perfect example. It's just functional strength is what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, and if you're not rotating at all, you're weak. You're weak in rotation, and so you're exposed. Now you're vulnerable for your body to maybe overreact, because think about how strong you are in that one direction. Think about how hard your body's going to fight you
when you try to go in another direction. Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So the thing is, you can build a strong body with and just pack the muscles on. But what good is that if you can't even wipe your ass and turn and grab something behind you?
Right.
I mean, it's just like it's totally a different mindset, and so I understand that. But don't you want to look good and still be able-bodied?
Absolutely.
And I mean, the tough part for me, it's almost depressing for me to see old bodybuilders that have really just broken their bodies, and they're just down, completely hunched over, and become a shrimp almost.
Yeah.
And just all the surgeries, and so actually, that's an extreme example of where you could go. But
well, I think
honestly,
one of the big excuses I hear all the time from guys is just, I'm not an athlete, so why do I need to train like an athlete? I'm not LeBron James. Why do I need to do what he's doing? Like, I'm just going to go to the gym and do my thing and then leave. But the way you put it, like, yeah, you don't want to be this guy who's moving around like a robot, like you said.
Well, not only that, if I'd sell that person that told you that I could get them stronger.
For sure.
You're not going to be able to get as strong if you don't give your body this sort of interruption and new stimulus. And also, you can strengthen muscles that in end ranges where it actually aesthetically even will build them differently, and will complement and build a more symmetrical physique. So there's all kinds of different spins or whatever I can put on it, but it's very beneficial. It's very important. And just for the sake of maintaining a healthy body, maintaining it into the future, you need to be able to think a little bit differently about what you're doing in the gym to keep that progress going and to prevent and avoid pain in the future that may deter you from progressing anymore.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, as we're talking about excuses here, one of the biggest ones is time. And so I think even especially for people like you who are literally running a business, I can only imagine how hard it is to have work, life, fitness balance. How do you maintain it? And what's your advice for people who do use that as an excuse?
Yeah, I've gotten this one a few times. It's such a tough question because
Everyone's different, right?
everybody's different. Everybody's going to prioritize things differently. Even in different moments of your life, it's going to look different. Like if I was single and I was just out of college, I would be just married to work
Right.
and I would just grind and I would do whatever I would pick up any shift I could um, and just get after it just because that's how I'm wired naturally. But as things kind of progress, evolve, and I got married and now I have kids and I want to be there for my kids and I want to see their, gymnastic event and their soccer game or whatever. I want to be there physically, and that's important. That's a priority of mine.
Right.
Okay? And then seeing my wife is a priority of mine, and connecting and maintaining that relationship, seeing my family, and then also just creating space. So I'm not so ridiculously like fixated on what I'm doing at work, and I can
Yeah.
still be kind of a reasonable human being to hang out with.
Right.
it's that's a lot to like. There's a lot of things pulling and pushing all at the same time.
Always. Yep.
So I just think my only advice is to really figure out what those priorities are for you right now and what you can stretch yourself on and run with for a while. Sometimes I just really want to focus on my family and I just do that.
Yep.
Sometimes I just really want to do periods of sprints where at work, listen, this month I am crazy busy. Like this
Oh
month
yeah.
for me is crazy busy. Like we're rocking this month. And so you got to give me some grace.
Yep.
And it's communication, I guess, is probably my best advice. And my wife and I have gone through a lot of help with that. And
Yeah.
me specifically to communicate better. And that helps avoid a lot of unnecessary stress and conflict if you're just completely transparent and honest. Like I have these certain projects and tasks and things that are pulling me, and like I would really like to get ahead and focus on that, and I need your help. And
Yep.
then I can come back and help you with the kids in the house, and I can do all these things and go hard. Then right now, I need your help to help me, and things like that. So it's just and then we try. Thankfully, I have partners that are all is old or around the same age, and we all
Yeah.
kind of are
Can
in the
relate.
same place in life. Yeah, so kids are a priority, so we try to figure out ways to incorporate them even where we do vacations while we're working and the families are there
Yep.
too. So there's ways to do it. I think that this whole um, martyrdom thing about work is a bunch of bullshit. That I think it's just a bunch of these influencer people that they have these groups that they just really want to hammer into you that that's the only priority in life is to get rich and
Oh yeah.
um
I
to
they those
just sell
like
yourself for this.
the quotes, like I don't know, I don't even follow these accounts on Instagram. I just get these quotes all the time, like these motivational, like don't sleep, like those types of quotes. And it's
Yeah,
just it
don't sleep
blows
when I die. Yeah,
yeah, it blows my mind how people look at that and they're like, hell yeah, that's what I'm gonna do is just not sleep. That's a good idea.
so you're not going to enjoy what you're thinking is I'm going to enjoy this, I don't know, like 10 years from now, right? Oh yeah, okay. How many friends do you have left?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. No
who's
social
going to
life.
stick around in your family? Like, how's your body doing?
Right.
Like like now let's go like assess like where you're at once you get there. So I think it's people need to think about that completely differently.
Yeah.
And I think there is like a movement in that direction of not trying to be this like, because I mean, we came from the Silicon Valley, so it's like that mentality is very rampant where we are.
It's
Of
it's
just I'll
it's
work at
kind of the
weekends.
same. It's kind of the same here. I'm from like right outside of Boston, and Boston's just very blue collar. Put your head down, go to work, go
Yeah,
home, wake up the next day, go. Like I'm not like that personally, but that is kind of the mentality here. So it's kind of the same thing.
yeah. I grew up like that. I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate hard work more than next, just as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
But also I want to plant seeds in people's heads that you can actually do things differently and get yourself out of that hustle. You don't have
Yeah.
to do that forever, is I guess my point.
Yeah, it's always nice to like have a good work ethic, but you should also probably have friends
Yeah.
and like maybe like a girl in your life, like something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's always good to have too. You mentioned having kids and everything, and that's not where I'm at yet. So I can only imagine like I'm having a hard enough time right now. But I mean that when I get to that stage, it's gonna be tough. What
Mhm.
you guys talk about fatherhood all the time on the podcast. That's one of the non-fitness related topics that you guys will cover on a lot of episodes. Along with that, what are some of your favorite non-fitness topics to cover on the show?
Um,
I'm sure COVID's
my
probably not one of them.
uh, I could never talk about it again and just
I know.
love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be the best thing ever, actually. I think my favorite thing to talk about is entertainment, mainly because I just like to escape a lot of the stress and the noise. And I feel like it's kind of where everybody's like enjoying themselves. Like, oh yeah, like I did watch that show. I did watch
Yeah.
that movie. I went to this experience. And so I'm more inclined to kind of bring that kind of stuff up just because also it's more relatable to me of there's other aspects of life other than
Yeah.
just always talking about fitness and how to gain muscle and how to lose body fat. I mean, I've probably talked about a million different ways to from a million different angles.
At some
I've
point,
talked about.
yeah, there's only so much you can say before things are repeated. So I totally get that.
Yeah, and I don't know, I love music, and that's one of my big passions that I haven't got back to yet. But I mean, I used to play in a band when I was out in Chicago, and loved every minute of it. And
What instrument?
always, I play guitar.
All right. All right. Cool.
Yeah, so I see you got one back there.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I got one of my own. Yeah.
nice. Yeah, so I used to play piano too, but not as good on the piano.
I gave up on the piano so quick. I that
Yeah.
my fiance got me one a couple years ago. It's like I want a piano. She got me it. She gets pissed at me every day because the thing's in a box in the garage. So
Oh
tough.
man.
It's
Yeah, you
tough.
gotta bust it out. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
eventually I'll come back. I'll come
yeah.
back to the music side of things just because it just fills me up in a different way. And also sports. That's a
Of
big thing
course.
I like to kind of, and it's hard because like Sal just does not have any input with anything
Yeah.
sports related. And so it's like we kind of do a little bit of UFC and jujitsu and things I'm not as familiar with, but I love UFC. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in boxing and things that's a little more relatable for Sal. But Adam and I, if it was up to us, we would probably talk about basketball, football, baseball, like all day long.
I gotta
And
say though, it's refreshing almost to hear how much Sal doesn't know about sports. So I actually write full time for NBC Sports. That's my full time job.
oh, nice.
But so like just being surrounded by sports all day, every day, and then hearing
Uh,
Sal just be like, "Who are the Lakers?"
it
That's one
doesn't
of the,
drive you crazy.
no, yeah, well, I guess in a sense it does, but like it's honestly hilarious. Like for example, like my fiance doesn't know shit about celebrities, right? She does it. She could look at Leonardo DiCaprio, like he could walk by on the street, and she'll be like, "I don't know who that is." That to me, that's just refreshing. I
Yeah,
usually think the world is just like so involved in like entertainment, sports, celebrities, all this shit. And when I see people like
totally.
that, I'm like, you know what? Like, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I get that too,
Yeah.
because that's kind of how we've all looked at celebrities coming up through this as well. Is like we just have never been in gaga over anybody,
Yeah.
and it's always like like yeah, I think certain people are cool if they're also like a cool person. I'll be
Right.
like, yeah, they did a great job on that film, or they played a great game, but I'm not going to sit there and idolize because a lot of them are they got some
Younger than
fucked up.
me.
Yeah. Well, and also they got some dark stuff in their life that
That
they
too.
haven't balanced. So it's like, why I'm not gonna like lift them up on a pedestal. But I appreciate them when they're in their thing. Like if they're like a musician and they're like just insanely talented, like
For sure.
honestly for me, probably musicians would give me more starstruck than any other type of a thing because I've been around like a lot of the sports guys, the
Yeah.
professional sports, and I've met a few celebrity movie people and whatnot. And it's just like, yeah,
I got to ask
whatever.
then, who's your favorite musician?
Oh, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay, that's a great pick. That's a great pick. So
Yeah.
anyone who's pretty much just an unbelievable guitarist has your vote, like Jimi
I
Hendrix, like anyone.
mean, yeah, I mean, I think more in the guitar realm just because
Yeah,
that was the first off the top of my mind. But I mean, there's musicians on all levels that I love and respect that are even, and it's funny because the show kind of pigeonholes you into a certain character, you know. And
yeah,
so I'm always known for like just being into metal and only, and I'm like, no, no, no. I like almost every genre except for country, really. Like, I just can't
right.
I can't do it. Yeah. I'm like I'll go Johnny Cash and Aaron Lewis, and that's like as far as I
There's
go.
exceptions. There's exceptions, but what
Yeah.
actually? Speaking of celebrities, you guys visited Tony Robbins recently? That episode dropped yesterday. That
Yeah.
had to be an unbelievable experience. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, it was pretty surreal. We all picked him as like one of our, I don't know, it was maybe like a list of like 20 people that we would love to interview if we had the chance. And we all collectively were like, we looked up to Tony and everything he's done. And I've known personally a couple people that have really transformed their business and have created these insane careers because of going and attending his events. So I never actually got to go to one of his events, but I definitely was aware of him and all his work. And it was cool because it just came to a point where we kind of forgot about all that. Like we were just like, you know what, whatever. It's just us. Like
Right.
nobody really cares, like other than our fans, which we love, and we're just gonna keep pouring back in them. And it's not about like trying to get the name person or whatever. And then he just his trainer, I guess, um, was I don't know how he found us, but he found us and then was
Wow.
really into our content. And I'm pretty sure, like he didn't fully admit, but I'm pretty sure he was behind the whole um, getting Tony to look into our stuff. And then they actually invited us out to their place, so we got to go to his house and
Yeah.
see everything and his secret passage and go down to his studio under there. It was a trip,
Unbelievable.
man. It was super cool. So yeah, it was a really fun trip and just kind of like one of those. It's not going to do a lot for our business, but um, just for each one of us personally, like we all got a lot out of that because it was
Bucket
like,
list.
oh wow, yeah, it's like, oh wow, we can now talk to people like that. That's rad.
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty
What
cool.
so is that that has to be one of your like we made it moments? Is there any others that stand out? Like, wow, this is surreal. Like we were really here.
Yeah, for me it was another thing like that. Like I was always really self-critical about putting out content because I wanted my peers to like what I was putting out. And I didn't want them to criticize too hard and um like I was hoping for that approval. And I've worked my way out of that mentality and just really just kind of focused on um, being confident. And I know a lot and I've had a lot of experience to share. And so we sort of focused more on like what we were bringing in to the table. And so once I once I got through that, it'd be cool if some of these peers of ours like did pay attention, but we got a little bit here and there. But the one that really stuck out that we're okay, this was another, I think we made it kind of a
Yeah.
feeling, was when Joe DeFranco started connecting with us. And then what we found out, he was like a fan of ours, and we're like, no way, dude, Joe DeFranco. Because I personally had his DVDs when I was in college, and he put out a lot of content for football, and I used that for the off season. And so it was really just cool that he gave us sort of a head nod of approval for what we were doing, and then we loved what he was doing. And he was like a super cool guy at the same time, where he wasn't like, he wasn't like some of the other people in the industry
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of snub their nose at you, and think that their shit never stinks. And
Right.
he's like the realest, coolest kind of guy that I've met so far in our space. And so that was a really cool moment. I was like, oh man, Joe DeFranco's behind us. I'm like, I don't care what anybody says now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that,
So
yeah.
so what's next for you guys? Like, how do you get to that next step? What's in the pipeline that you can share? I'm sure there's a lot of secret stuff going on behind the scenes.
There's more work on interviews that so we brought some people on staff that are kind of helping us with that, to try and get a little like more, I guess, known people that have something cool about them or something to say that we align with. So for the most part, we will bring in people that we don't align with, as long as we tried. Let me rephrase that, because we tried to do that and do the whole debate thing, and we did that a few times, but it was really only to show them how similar we were.
Right.
And so we did that with some trans athletes, and we had we had that discussion with them. And also just like there's love, like it's all from a place of like we can agree to disagree, that kind of thing. But I feel like our direction now is just more trying to find people that have a really positive message, that is sort of a loud megaphone that we want to turn on to our audience as well. And so we're just looking for those kind of bigger voices out there to bring on the show, to get the word out and align with on some level, because we all need to kind of unify and bring this back, because everybody's so just divided and
Uptight.
against each other these days, that I'm just like, let's bring in all the positive vibes.
Love
So
that.
we're working on, bringing some big names on the show, to kind of follow up. And we're also like I said, we're working on like 4 programs this year. So we have one that we're going to release this month.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, so it's a totally cool program that kind of um, fits within our sort of collection
Yeah.
of all of our, because we've had a lot of different directions we've taken these programs for different attributes, and this one fits nicely for that one piece that we bring up, but we haven't really built the program around yet. And so a couple other programs, and then we may start, I don't know, it's kind of up in the air. We may end up doing some live events at some
Awesome.
point again, which we haven't done for a couple years now.
Yeah.
And if that makes sense, I love them personally, because it's really cool to hear people's stories, and how certain things have impacted them, and
Right.
so that always fills us up. But yeah, we're kind of leaving it up in the air for that, working hard on other parts of the business that people don't know about, that we simultaneously run. So yeah, we're making moves. for
That's
sure.
awesome, man. Well, you guys are killing it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what these programs are, because I mean, all the programs that I've tried so far have been very beneficial. So I can only imagine these ones are going to be great. Is there anything else you would like to promote before we wrap up here? Anything else you want to plug?
No, just our YouTube channel. We're putting a lot of effort into that. We're rearranging the studio, so we're going to have a whole new look, and we've been getting a lot of good traction there, and we want to keep that going. So the Mind Pump TV is, where we'll have our podcast channel and also our sort of exercise demos and things. And then our podcast is really the only thing. I mean, everything from there, you'll find our website, mindpumpmedia.com. It's got all the programs, all the info about us, all that kind of stuff. But Instagram is where I'm at, and Adam and Sal's now on Twitter. So
Yeah,
they don't like him so much on
that's
Instagram
tough.
these days. So, hey, like it may be a matter of time before I go and Adam goes. So
These
I
days,
don't
who
go
knows,
quite as
man?
hard as Sal, but so we'll know. Yeah, who knows? But we're just going to try and keep connected to people and try to be a positive light out there and force to get people out of this funk.
That's awesome, man. That's a great way to end it. I appreciate everything you guys do. You guys, like I said, changed my outlook on fitness, changed a lot of people's. So I appreciate that. And of course, appreciate you coming on the show today too. So thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
Have
Thanks
a
for
great
having
rest.
me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day, and good luck to everything you guys are doing behind the scenes.
Right on, man.